Hey guys, and welcome to QualityShot. Djokovic wins his sixth Rome title at the Italian Open 2022, beating Stefanos Tsitsipas in straight sets. And I have to say, it was a very intriguing match. Now, it didn't go the way I thought it was going to go. I didn't think that Stefanos Tsitsipas was going to was going to lose even as easy as he did. The fact that he got bageled in the first round by Djokovic is pretty astounding to say the least. And the second set, okay, he's actually 5-2 up and he bottled it a little bit. Djokovic, though, with some inspired returning, broke back, took him to a tiebreaker, and then beat him in the tiebreaker. Now, I think Tsitsipas will be really disappointed about that because, especially given he got bageled, he did well to actually try and recover and then be 5-2 up. And I think, from there, you shouldn't be losing a set. And to lose it 7-5 in the tiebreaker and just overall how it went down, it was almost reminiscent a little bit of Roland Garros, where he was 2-0 up, of course, in the final, and Djokovic came back. And I don't think it's a mental fragility, but I think it's definitely a lack of mental strength, if that makes sense. I don't think it's so bad that we have to look at him and say, okay, he doesn't seem like the most mentally tough player. I think he is pretty mentally tough, but probably not as mentally tough as someone like a Djokovic or a Nadal. And I mean, maybe I'm expecting too much from these guys because they're not the big three, but I think it's more a mental state more than I'm looking at it from a skill level point of view. But then at the same time, I think the mental state is probably also what sets those guys apart because skill level wise, yes, they're probably a notch above as well. But I think where they really are able to pip these other guys on tour is in the big points. And that normally means not just how they're playing them, but how mentally they adjust for them, how they approach them, how they soak up the pressure. Whereas you'll see, for example, a lot of players on tour, they'll double fault if they're a break point down or they're a set point down and they're serving to stay in the match or the set. So, look, I think from my point of view, it was an interesting one. Djokovic ended up out serving Tsitsipas as well, which is pretty weird to say. And actually, I'll share my screen so you guys are actually able to see it for those of you who are watching the video version. And also, I'll go through it as well. So you can see here that, I mean, if we look at the stats, right, in terms of serve stats, 6 aces for Djokovic and only 1 for Stefanos Tsitsipas. Now, in my estimation, I would say that Tsitsipas should be serving just as well as Djokovic on the clay, and to be honest with you, on any surface, because return-wise, I mean, there is a huge chasm between Djokovic's returning and Tsitsipas' returning. Djokovic, best returner ever. Tsitsipas, I have to say, probably an average returner, to be fair, on tour. But his serve is what sets him apart, and then his 1+ play as well, and just the way that he's able to back up his serve nicely. The fact they only hit 1 ace is a little bit concerning, but then again, okay, fine, Djokovic, amazing returners. You say, fine. And then you look at the first serves made. 70% for Djokovic, which is really high. 66% for Tsitsipas, which is also pretty high. Not bad there, that's fine. But then first serve points won is where there's a huge disparity. 81% of first serve points won for Djokovic. So he only lost 7 points behind the first serve. However, Tsitsipas only won 64% of first serve points won. So remember, you have to look at that as, okay, well, he managed to hit 66% of first serves in. Then you have to take 64% off that 66%, right, as a portion. So that's not ideal by any stretch, right? So he's like, that's just not ideal at all. It's really not. And that means around 36%, it'll be 36% of points on his serve. He won, right, on first serve. 36% of them, of the points, not just on first serve, but 36% of his points on serve, he won as first serve points. Which isn't a high proportion because then you look at the second serve points won only 35%. So he was having longer games than Djokovic. He was losing points easier. He got broken to love a couple of times as well, especially in the first set. Of course, the bagel wouldn't have helped his serve stats, of course. But look, I mean, for him to look into, and I'll go into a little bit about why that might be in the case, why his, I guess, stats may have suffered a little bit, because, of course, for him, and I made a point of, I guess, talking about it in the preview, he's able to make pretty much every ball that comes back to him after the serve, so that serve plus one shot, be a forehand. He's able to make it into a forehand and make it into an effective forehand more often than not. But against Djokovic, I did say it would be a different story. And I think it was, because of how deep he hits the backhand return, how deep he hits the backhand cross court. He hits angles on that side as well. And I said that Tsitsipas would have to hit more dry backhands, and that's exactly what he had to do. He had to hit more dry backhands, and he didn't really have an answer. So we'll go into that more in a second. But yeah, generally, of course, you can see that Djokovic 56% of second serve points won, break points saved. So Djokovic say 1 out of 2, Tsitsipas 2 out of 6. So I think it's one of those things. And if we look at pressure point rating, well, this is an interesting stat. So these are the pressure points, the crunch points, right? The ones where you say, okay, they've won, that's a clutch point to win. Djokovic won 5 out of 8. Tsitsipas 3 out of 8. There's a big difference there, right? A couple of points, but remember, it's only out of 8. That's a massive, massive difference. So, I think, again, this is what kind of sets these guys apart. So what I would say is, for me, I would say, what I would say, right, is that if we're looking at this, I have to say that Novak Djokovic at the moment is the most informed player, probably, bar Carlos Alcaraz, didn't play this week, on tour. So, well, those two go into Roland Garros as the most informed players, right? Stefanos Tsitsipas will be disappointed, because I think this is an opportunity for him to really stamp his authority, I think, on the clay court swing. A lot of people were kind of not writing him off, but maybe forgetting about him a little bit and saying that, look, hold on, he's just made the final last year. He's won multiple clay court tournaments. He makes deep runs in pretty much every tournament as well. Shouldn't we be talking about him? Now, the issue is for performances like this. Now, you can't get bageled and then get straight setted by Djokovic when you're trying to say that I am the best person, right? Or I am a massive contender for this. We'll see. We'll see, right? Of course, it's a long tournament. It's best of 5. It's very different, but I just feel like there are some areas that need to be brushed up upon. I don't know whether he's able to do that before Roland Garros. He's got the game. He's got good enough game to win it. But the issue is whether he's got good enough game to beat the opposition in front of him. Kind of dependent on the draw as well. If he was to face Alcaraz, I think he'd lose. If he was to face Djokovic, I think he'd lose. I think if he was to face Nadal, I think it would be a close one because of the foot, etc. But again, I'd still back Nadal, right? So I think really you're looking at him and saying, well, he's probably 4th favorite potentially. But you have to stay tuned for that. We're going to do, of course, our ATP French Open Power Rankings video. It's a separate video. We'll do it at some point this week. So do, of course, keep an eye out for that. It'll be our final one as well. So back onto Novak Djokovic and Stefanos Tsitsipas, because I've got a little bit sidetracked. So yeah, the biggest issue for me was that Tsitsipas was going to have to hit a lot of backhands, and he did, because Djokovic went deep to the backhand side. He also kind of at times tried to rush Tsitsipas, so he couldn't hit the into-out forehand. He had to hit backhand, and you saw Tsitsipas hitting backhands in positions where you wouldn't normally expect him to. So he was hitting positions, for example, just left of, the center line, I guess you want to say, where you serve to hit a backhand. He would actually hit a backhand rather than a forehand, which is very, very interesting, right? Because when you look at that, you might think, well, hold on. Normally, he's making that ball into an into-out forehand. But as I said in the preview, Djokovic hits the ball deeper than anyone else on tour. So the issue is that he's just not able to sort his feet out quick enough to hit that into-out forehand. So he was having to commit to the dry backhand, and then also even the backhand corner, Djokovic was just pummeling him in the backhand corner. And normally people get a bit tensive doing that because the problem is if you don't hit the backhand cross well enough, Tsitsipas makes it into out, into in forehand, and then he hurts you. But Djokovic wasn't afraid of that. Why would he be? One of the best defenders ever, and not just that, but he trusted his placement, he trusted his execution, and it paid off. And I think that's the big difference between him and, of course, the other players on tour. But for me, I think it's just one of those things that we look at it and it's just such an impressive kind of comeback, of course, from not playing the Australian Open to now. Look at him. I mean, look how good he looks now, right? I mean, he looks incredible. I think the drop shot is firing beautifully. And the biggest thing for me is the serve as well. Like, he had quite a few aces, of course, 6 of them. And especially the serve on the ad side, the serve down the tee on the ad side, he was crunching it. Like, he was really, really ripping that serve down the tee. And he hit quite a number of aces. I think it was 4, if I'm not mistaken, on that side, going down the tee. And it just looks like such a natural serve to him. Of course, it's into the opponent's perceived forehand, but or righty's forehand. But the thing is, if he nails it like he has been, it doesn't matter. You're not getting anywhere near it because it's just in the corner. It's on the spot, right? It's spot serving at its best, and it just has got incredible shape on it. And it's great to see. It really is great to see. So more of that, I think we will end up seeing. I think from, I think so. Anyway, we'll end up seeing more of it from Novak Djokovic. And yeah, the drop shot, of course, looking good. The forehand as well. He's able to stick with he was able to stick with Tsitsipas for long periods of time, forehand to forehand, which was really, really impressive. I thought it was just great to witness and watch, and I'm really glad that he's back to full form and full fitness. But for I think for Tsitsipas, he's going to be disappointed with that. He's going to be really disappointed with how he performed. I think you have to look at his game and kind of not sure what he's going to do. I think he should have sliced more on the backhand side. Tried to give himself more time. I think the problem is he was getting caught in backhand to backhand exchanges, and he probably wasn't feeling comfortable on that side. So give yourself more time. Give yourself time to then slice into the backhand corner at times, mix it up a little bit, make Djokovic kind of get down low, go backhand cross as well if he wants to again. And then, you can try and reset. You can try and give yourself more time to tee up the forehand to go then into out or into in. So a lack of maybe imagination from Tsitsipas just causing him harm. But in the end, it was a very, very good win for Novak Djokovic. Of course, it's 1,001st win. He got his 1,000th win against Casper Ruud, and again, a very good performance from him. So he marches on and he looks and feels and sounds very confident ahead of Roland Garros. So we'll see how he gets on there. But generally, I think it's been a really good tournament for him, of course. He loves Rome, 6th Rome title. I think he's made 12 finals, so 50% success rate. I mean, that's pretty damn good. In fact, it's amazing considering you have to then take into account who has been in this generation, which is Nadal, who's the best clay courter ever. So a lot of those final losses were to Nadal, if I'm not mistaken, if not potentially even all of them. So I think we need to look at that and just say, he is a phenomenal clay court player, and he'll go down as one of the best. I mean, he'll go down the top 5 clay court players of all time, Djokovic, and we know how good he is on the hard courts and the grass courts, and he's up there in the top echelon, no doubt, in those. But he just keeps on rolling on, keeps on defying the odds, and I think the other guys on tour will look at that, especially the guys who are looking to Roland Garros to go deep and say, that's not a good sign for us because he's looking like he's really, really sharp and tuned in. And there's no signs of any type of physical fatigue or getting tired like he did when he first came back onto tour. So we'll see. We'll see how he gets on. But what a win in the end. A convincing win for Novak Djokovic. He marches on. Guys, if you haven't done so already, please remember to hit that like button, please, and subscribe to the channel if you're new. If you're a YouTube watcher or listener, It really does help us out. And if you're a podcast listener, do remember to hit that rating and review button, leave a rating and review. And on top of that, if you don't mind subscribing as well, if you're listening on Google Podcasts as well, do check us out on Twitter as well, QualityShot1, and you can check us out on Instagram as well, QualityShot.f. Thanks very much, guys. Stay safe and well, and we'll see you on the next video. We will, of course, be doing a WTA roundup as well for Iga Swiatek's win, ATP and WTA power rankings, final power rankings, and we've got 2 collaborations this week, so it's going to be a jam-packed week previewing the French Open. So do make sure that you click the notification bell to get alerts to those videos.